Thank you, Greg, for that warm welcome. And he was sure to get that preemptive strike about my golf game out early, which he knows what's coming, because I got the great fortune of being paired with Greg in the Regions golf tournament, and I did hit a good drive, probably my best drive I've hit in 5 years off the tee box. Closed my eyes and swung hard, but he went on to make 5 pars himself. And I told him, you know, you're not allowed to make 5 pars, and he beat the pro a couple holes. So he was a little worried about what I might say about his golf game, but his golf game is in great shape, evidence of 5 pars. But I appreciate Greg, what he does. He's got a really tough, demanding job, especially in these times, and he leads from the front. And I appreciate people who are willing to lead from the front in difficult times. So thanks, Greg, for that warm welcome. Next and first and foremost would be my wife. Absolutely the best teammate anybody could ever ask for. And 19 years we've been together, and this is the 19th anniversary, and here I am celebrating it in Atlanta with you guys. And she's in Mississippi with our youngest son with a baseball tournament. So in coaching profession, you learn a lot of ways to celebrate things in different ways. And she and I have learned to appreciate the time we do have together. She spent a season with me at the Dolphins in the NFL, 9 at Alabama, 9 at Georgia. So there you go. 9 and 9 is 18 plus 1, that's 19. Getting ready to go on our 10th season at UGA, and she's been the best teammate I could ever ask for. 10th season at UGA. I want to say a couple words about somebody that is kind of stepping down from our program, and he's been one of the biggest parts, and people do not give athletic trainers enough credit. But for 30 years, the face of UGA athletic training, and in most cases, the SEC athletic training, has been Dr. Ron Corson. He got his doctorate yesterday in athletic training, and I want to give a shout out to Ron and all he's meant to our program at the University of Georgia and what all he's done. He is a selfless man that is given to multiple head coaches. He's been basically the primary care physician for every coach and their family and every former player at UGA. So thank you for what you do, Dr. Ron, and what you continue to do for our program. Real quick, 3 football players we brought today. I know everybody likes to talk about their guys. I'm going to brag on mine. So C.J. Allen is a rising junior and one of the best leaders we've had in our program at linebacker. He is from Barnesville, Georgia, right down the road, and is a tremendous leader. Quick story about C.J. My son needed to get treatment for the last couple months, and he would come in the office every morning around 6:50, 6:55 to get treatment at 7 so he could make it to school by 8. And there wasn't a morning that we got there that C.J. Allen was not already in the training room doing some kind of rehab, running, getting warmed up, taking care of injuries. He's just a relentless worker and a relentless competitor who got to play in some big games as a freshman, probably even before he was ready. And that's paid off for us last year and this year with CJ. Next would be Gunner Stockton from the great community of Rabun County. He's with us today. Gunner is a kid that leads from the front. Gunner's a winner. He comes from an athletic family background. His dad played at Georgia Southern, and he is the kind of kid you want at the front of the line, and he leads from the front. So I appreciate what Gunner does. He's going to be a big part of our program this year in leadership and doing that with the offensive players. He's already begun to do that in his leadership groups that he runs right now. And then the last one is Dalen Everett. Dalen is a senior. Dalen will graduate this next summer. Gunner just graduated this summer, and CJ will graduate. I'm sorry, Dalen will graduate this fall, and CJ Allen will graduate next summer, being a third-year player. But Dalen's from Norfolk, Virginia. Dalen's been a part of our program for 4 years, really a 2-year starter in my mind. He had a big year for us last year. He gives tremendous confidence to a secondary that's going to be young next year. Dalen is a kid that ever since we've met him, no challenge is too big. He loves to practice. He loves to compete. He demands excellence, and he is here representing us today, so I'm proud of Dalen. Our team's going to be comprised of 54% first and second year players. Very big change for us. I thought last year was probably one of the most veteran teams I've been a part of. You guys know the COVID class has kind of aged out. So we had multiple players that were in their 5th and 6th year last year, especially across the offensive and defensive lines. We had a tremendous group that all went out kind of at the same time, aged out at the same time. And so we're going to be really young, especially on the offensive and defensive lines. But 54% of our players are coming into their 1st or 2nd year. So what do you get with that? You get youthful exuberance. We've had practices that have been spirited. We had a great spring practice that we talked about the words fire, passion, and energy. I think the biggest thing that separates college football teams today is complacency among players versus fire, passion, and energy among players. So we've tried to highlight those traits as much as possible with our players. Our players need to bring juice and energy each and every day. If they don't, they'll be confronted by the players that do. And if the players continue to do that, we'll have a successful season and a successful football team. In a day and age that I think Sankey referenced it yesterday, times are changing. College athletics and college football is not broken. He used the word strained. I would say that it's in a time of change and influx that you have to navigate better than your opponent. You have to navigate better than your competitor, whether that's conference to conference or within your own conference. And we continue to find ways to do that at University of Georgia. We sell relationships over transactions. We think the relationship still wins out because the relationship allows you to push people and demand excellence. And we're going to continue to do that at Georgia. We don't believe in just being transactional, because when you're transactional, you cannot accomplish whatever your ultimate goal is, whatever your greatest reach is, whatever the ceiling is for every player and every team we have. You don't reach that without relationships. So we're going to try to win 24-hour increments each and every day to make sure we still attain that. A great example of what I think about in college athletics, I wanted to share. Leland in our sports information department has a young lady that just won a national championship with our track team. Kayla is with us today. Kayla Jackson from Detroit, Michigan, came all the way to Athens, Georgia to run track. She won a national championship with our women's track program, and she is kind of interning, kind of mirroring us in SID today, and that wouldn't be possible without college athletics. I don't think enough of those stories are told, and that is important to me. I'm a traditionalist. I believe in the college athletic background and what it does for people, what it did for me and my family, what it did for my wife being a female athlete at the University of Georgia and playing basketball. That experience paves the way for future success, and I believe in that. So with that, I'm going to open it up in honor of the great Bob Holt. We'll call it the Bob Holt question because he used to have the first one every time.
Thank you, Coach Smart. If you do have a question, Miles, Ty, and Olivia will get a microphone to you. I appreciate the tribute to our friend Bob. All right, we'll start right here in the middle aisle, Coach, right in front, near about halfway back.
Coach, Emily Grace McWhorter from the next round. You've continually been outspoken about walk-ons and their intrinsic value to your program. Your most recent draft class reflected that with Dan Jackson. What is your message to the players that may not have those same opportunities that your previous walk-ons had with the new roster limits?
Well, that's a great first question because I don't want to jump on a soapbox and tell you how I really feel. Opportunities are being lost all across college athletics, and unfortunately, that's part of it. I can't really give a message to the next walk-on because I don't know that there's going to be an opportunity for that walk-on. I think find value in what people want. You know, we still really preach fire, passion, and energy. So we want kids who love the game. We found it's not how fast you run the 40 or how talented you are. It's how fast you run the 40th 40 and how passionate you are in the third and fourth quarter when you're tired. And sometimes those guys have more intrinsic value for your team than maybe a guy who is a scholarship player but is disinterested because he's not playing. So a lot of those stories have been lost, but I think you can reward those by going out and finding kids to fit in your 105. And it doesn't matter whether you call them a walk-on or just a scholarship player that may not get as much NIL, that play with fire, passion, and energy. So I'm looking forward to continuing that long kind of history we have of doing that by finding the right kind of players to come play at Georgia who love the university, who want to get a degree from there, and who want to be great football players. But that's a story that's kind of untold, and I think it's really untold in terms of other sports, Olympic sports, let's call them, across college athletics.
Coach, we're going to go straight here in front of me, second row. Kurt, right in the middle.
Kurt Bowles from Houston Chronicle. Kirby, you beat Texas twice last year. Now you get them at home. Do you have any special secret to beating Sark, and any insights from your days at Alabama together that work well toward that end?
No, I think if you're going to beat a good football team, you've got to be sound football team yourself, you know, and I didn't overlap with Sark that I remember at Alabama, so we weren't there the same time. Tremendous respect for him and his program, the job they do. You know, to beat good teams, you got to be a good team. We had a good football team last year, so did they. It's not about us as coaches, it's really about the players and what you believe in. And you know, we got a lot of really good football teams to play next year besides just Texas, so we're preparing for all of them.
Coach, we'll go over to our right-hand side about middle of the way back. Just over to the right.
Drew DeArmond, WCCN Radio, Huntsville, Alabama. Coach, I know during the offseason you've talked about building depth. You were at Alabama 9 years. You and Coach Saban built a lot of depth in the program. You've done that during the majority of your 10 years at Georgia. How do you view change within your organization to try to maybe, I don't know, speed up somebody's development when you to develop depth with the impact of the transfer portal and NIL?
Yeah, first of all, you don't speed up development. That's a misnomer. So if you want to speed up development, then you're probably looking for shortcuts that don't exist. You want to develop somebody, it takes time, it takes reps. We can't replicate reps faster. We can't speed up a guy's transition. The transition it takes to become a good football player is different for every kid. And I've been fortunate, you know, for the last 19 years of college football to learn that and learn that it takes what it takes, and it takes time to grow those players. Now, I wish I could speed it up. I really wish I could speed it up this year, but there's no remedy or magic potion or we're going to go get this guy out of the portal or that guy out of the portal. It's all about continuity and what you do with each team. You're seeing that across college football where there's beginning to be a little more parity, I think, and it's probably going to continue to go that way. So who does the best with what they have, which is what I enjoy about the game.
Coach, we'll go straight down in front of us. Second row, second row.
Hey, Kirby. Cedric Golden, Austin American Statesman. Gunner's relief appearance against Texas, how did that benefit the locker room, the way he came in for Carson, and how does that serve as a teaching tool for young players who may not be starting?
Yeah, I don't know that the benefit on the locker room is as great as the other parts you just said. You know, what does it teach a young player that's sitting in the wings that you just don't ever know when your number's going to be called? And the one thing that I really appreciate about Gunner and most quarterbacks is he prepared every game as if he was the starter. And people can say that and say that's coach speak, but he actually did it. He went in, watched extra tape, and he knew that at any point in time he could be called on to have to go in the game and play. And, you know, he didn't go in a normal environment, you know, where you got a big lead. You know, maybe you're beating an opponent. He went in against a top defense in the country in one of the biggest games of the season and performed well for a guy that had not gotten a lot of reps with the ones. So I thought he handled that moment well, and he taught a lot of our young players that you got to be prepared and ready.
Which will go over to our left-hand side on the far aisle.
Hey, Coach. Dave Shoemate from the SEC Unfiltered channel. You mentioned a little bit on character, football, personal character background and stuff, and everybody talks about the film evaluation side of things. And character, football stuff's always been important, but it used to just be a scholarship, cost of attendance a check. Now we're putting real percentages, money-wise, revenue on these kids' heads. What are the cutting-edge things you guys are doing at Georgia to be ahead of that, be ahead of the curve in the character and personal development, bringing the right kids into your program?
Yeah, I don't know that I would say cutting edge. We're all trying to do it better than anybody else. And, you know, if I share that with you, then I'm sharing it with everybody. So if we're doing anything cutting edge, I'm not sharing it today. I can assure you of that. What I do think is important, or more important, that you hit on is it's less about what the tape looks like. Okay? For instance, if we're going to sign 4 corners or 4 DBs, there's going to be 1,000 DBs that are good enough on the tape. Let's don't talk about the DBs that are above the line. The line is, are they good enough to play winning football at Georgia? There's thousands. Let's just get the ones that care, the ones that are not transactional, that are relationship built. They want relationships. They want to be coached. They want to be pushed. And yeah, they're going to get paid. No coach is going to stand up here and say they don't want players to get paid. We want them to get paid. I am completely comfortable with that. What I want is them want to get paid and that not change how they go about their business. That not change if they're sensitive to being demanded excellence of. And it's so ironic to me that you meet a parent and they're like, Coach, I really want my son to play where he's pushed and demanded of, and he gets coached each and every day the hard way, because I honestly don't think he can make it without that. I mean, we all needed it. I needed it at 17. A 17-year-old needs to be pushed. Doesn't preclude them from gaining monetary value. They can do both those two things. But a lot of coaches aren't willing to do that. People don't want to confront and demand anymore for fear of losing a player. I would rather go get the right player that buys into that, and then I've got something special when they do develop and get all those reps.
Coach, we're going to go in the center aisle, 3rd row, right in front.
Yeah, Kirby, Barry Trammell, Tulsa World. Your 25 non-conference schedule is what it is, but going forward, it's pretty robust, including 2030. You got Georgia Tech, Clemson, and Ohio State. What's the chances those games hold and that the scheduling philosophy that you guys mapped out continues?
Really no clue what the chances are. That's, you know, it's one of those things that I can only speculate on. I love big out-of-conference games. I love opportunities to play teams on a big stage, to open with big games. You know, everybody talks about it. I think that's where we're headed, you know what I mean, to have that kind of schedule where you get to play out of conference and you play other, you know, the A4s. I love those kind of games because our kids get up for them, you know. I think the bigger decision is how many teams are going to be in the playoff. How do we go about selecting those playoffs? You're going to motivate more teams to play schedules like that with a fix in the way we go about selecting the teams.
Okay, we're going to go over to our right-hand side, about midway back.
Hey, Coach. Hamilton Culpepper with Bulldog Illustrated and the Hammy Show. You keep talking about how fire, passion, and energy are huge pillars of the Georgia football program, actual added pillars to the foundation. Can you name a few players, specific players that have exhibited it thus far, and why add it in this particular offseason?
Well, it's hard for me to pick 1 or 2 players. I actually want them to compete to separate themselves as guys that have fire, passion, and energy. We've picked a few. I don't really choose to share them publicly today because that could change as soon as tomorrow. Who's working out the hardest, who's leading, and who's pushing. But why is it important to identify it now? Because the culture in college football is slowly changing. You got to remember, I was part of a 9-year program and a 9-year run that was one of the greatest ever in college football, okay? And now I'm at a place that's doing it right and competing in a really high level. I've seen what it looks like to have fire, passion, and energy, and I've seen guys that were really hungry, and I go back to a Dante Hightower, Rolando McClain, a Julio Jones, a Trent Richardson, a Mark Ingram, all the way to Roquan Smith, to Nolan Smith, to Jordan Davis, to George Pickens, to Jake Fromm, to guys that played in our program, DeAndre Swift. You know what they had? They had a love for the game and fire, passion, and energy. That's not the same as it used to be. You can say what you want, but there's people more in college football today, especially in the SEC, that are comfortable with where they are. This is a pretty good life. I'm earning $200K a year. I'm very comfortable. And you don't reach your goals being comfortable. You don't attain great success. None of those people I mentioned before were ever comfortable. They were aiming at something. They had a goal. They wanted to go achieve it. What you see now is like, where's the drive and energy and enthusiasm? Well, we want people that have it. We're going to seek it. We're going to try to go find it. And if we can just do that 1% better than everybody else, gives us an opportunity to be ahead.
Coach, we're going to go right in front of me, front row.
Eric Henry, 24/7 Sports. Kirby, just curious, Texas has got a lot of attention entering this season, and you talk about how underclassmen heavy your program is. Do you sense a level of eagerness from the underclassmen to go prove that, hey, we can be just as good as the Georgia teams of the past, and quite frankly, we beat Texas twice last year?
Yeah, a lot of those kids didn't. They weren't the guys on the field. But yeah, I do sense in our practices and our workouts and the things we've been able to be a part of in the spring, there is a youthful exuberance. There is that can be positive and negative. I can sit up here last year and tell you how experienced we were. We had all these guys coming back. They played a lot of football. But are they motivated, and are they really wanting to be great? As opposed to something when it's new, there's a lot more excitement. It's their first time getting a chance to start. It's their first time being a major player in the rotation. So there's good and bad about both. We got to manage that. We got to be patient with them, and we got to get them better.
Go down to the center aisle, Mike.
Mike Griffith, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and DawgNation. Kirby, how much have your practices changed, or how much do you plan to modify them from the time of the back-to-back titles and Bloody Tuesdays now with longer seasons and now roster limitations in effect?
Well, it depends on how limited our roster is, because we're not all operating off of 105 right now. We have the ability, because of the settlement, to have some guys that were grandfathered in. So we will make changes and adaptations to how we do things based on our numbers. But right now, I don't know what those numbers are going to look like for fall camp and how many people we're going to bring in. So, the season, ultimately, we may have similar numbers to what we've had past years. Eventually, that's going to go down to 105, and you're going to have to change with each and every year. And I think you evolve as a coach. We've got to find more creative ways to get reps and grow players. And, we all study NFL teams the way they go about it. I just don't know if that's a perfect mirror, because the kids we're trying to develop need more reps than an NFL player. First thing a general manager tells us when they come see us is, don't come to our league to develop. We can't develop you. We don't have the practices. So if you actually want to get better at football where you can stay longer in the NFL, you have to go through the college regimen to grow and get better. They don't need the practices that we need.
Coach, we'll go over to our right-hand side on the far aisle.
Hey, Coach. Michael Bronner, WNSP in Mobile. The hot rumor yesterday was a secondhand rumor about Nick Saban possibly being interested in coming back to coach. And Lane Kiffin said he wouldn't be surprised. I was wondering if you could share your reaction as well as your relationship with Nick Saban since he's retired.
Yeah, I called him and offered him Muschamp's job, but he was overqualified, so he wasn't interested. No, I heard all the scuttlebutt and everything about it. I almost laughed. It was like somebody needed something interesting to talk about yesterday, so they chose to go to Coach Saban to do it. The game's better with him involved, and he is involved. He is passionate about it. He and I still talk and share ideas from time to time about defensive philosophies and the way to do things, and he's still watching tape and very, very involved in football. He loves it. And his brilliance, as brilliant as he is in many ways, is around football. I mean, it's around scheme. It's around another way to do something to stay ahead of the offensive minds. And I think that's one of the elite talents he has. And he still loves that. He's still passionate about that. But make no mistake about it, the boss at home is going to make that call for him, not him.
Okay, Coach, we'll go right here in the front of us to the left on the front row.
Coach Smart, Terry Middleton from Orange Illustrated. First, congratulations on your marriage for 19 years.
Thank you.
So John McDade talked just before you did about all the rule changes in the game.
Did y'all love that? Did y'all love McDade? Everybody loves McDade's talk, man.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So I'm curious what your take on some of those rules are, but specifically about he calls it the abrupt movement on defense. And people can contend that was one of the reasons that you probably beat Texas, pulling them off sides with your defense last season. So curious about all the rules, but specifically the abrupt movement on defense. How does that impact your team?
Yeah, you would need to define abrupt for me, because we could get in here and talk for hours about what's abrupt and what's not. Was that movement abrupt, or was that slow? You sitting down. Like, you got to define abrupt. He's got to define abrupt, and he's got to teach his guys that go out in the field. And I think they do a tremendous job of tape study and how to go about that. So it's one of those things that is very intricate among football and football minds. And people try to manipulate it and do things and change things. The game's ever evolving. So I think John McDade and his staff do a tremendous job navigating that.
Coach, will go straight in front of me about halfway back.
Coach Nicholas from KCU in Columbia. You mentioned a young secondary a couple minutes ago. One position I wanted to ask you about was a strong safety. You brought in some transfers. You have some young, talented freshmen, but you also have some familiar names on the roster. You kind of give us some insight on how the position's going in heading into fall camp.
Yeah, we've got a great competition there. KJ Bolden played a lot of snaps last year. He's coming back. We need him to be a leader. We need him to help set the tone for how to go about things. We've got some older players there that are going to be in competition. We've got a couple transfers in. So, you know, we do things a lot of times defensively by committee. We play a lot of players. I think we had third or fourth most players, over 100 snaps. So if you come to Georgia, you expect to play. We want to give you an opportunity to play, so we get a lot of those guys reps and grow them, and we'll see where we are in fall camp at that position.
Okay, we'll take one final question in the section in front of me, again, about halfway back.
Coach Joe Gaither, Alabama Crimson Tide on SI. The last time that Alabama played Georgia in Athens, you were a defensive coordinator for the Crimson Tide. What are your thoughts on that game? This coming up year, last year's game was great. What are your thoughts on hosting Alabama this season?
It's a great atmosphere, just like we went into last year to play them. A night game on the road. They'll come to our place and play. A tremendous atmosphere. I know a lot of people from Tuscaloosa coming over to the game. Athens, the city of, loves it. We bring a great environment. You know, it's what college football is about. This game is about playing great matchups like that. It's what the fan bases want. It's what the nation wants. It's what college football needs. It's what college football in the SEC is about. You know, Georgia, Alabama at home at our place. I wish it could happen more often. Seems like we've played over there 3 or 4 times since they've come to see us and play. So it's a great opportunity, and look forward to it.
Coach Smart, we appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you, and go Dogs.